This video, I'm going to be going over the different types of commas, how to use them, and also what we have on this page right here, which is fanboys. So let's get right into it. Let's not waste any time. Make sure you guys have a pencil and a piece of paper so that way you guys can take notes on. And if you guys need this PDF, it will be in your Google Classroom for wholesome students. And for non-wholesome students, we have uploaded it with this video so that way you guys can watch and go along on that worksheet with it. So let's go over fanboys first. So fanboys is something that's called coordinating. I'll write this down. It's called coordinating conjunctions. Okay, so they're called coordinating conjunctions. And the coordinating conjunctions are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, or so. Well, why are you telling me this, Mr. Sonny? Well, the reason I'm telling you about fanboys and coordinating conjunctions is because the first way to use a comma is going to be with coordinating conjunctions. So this part, just got to memorize it, okay? Fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, or so. That's it, okay? So those are fanboys and those are coordinating conjunctions. Now, when I go on to the next part and we start really going into the different types of comma usages, I'm going to break down what these big words mean so that way you guys can understand it, okay? So just try to take out the important parts out of this, and I've listed the important parts, but I'll break it down for you guys with each individual one so that way you understand it better. If you guys have any questions, just comment below, and I'm happy to answer any of them. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Now, we have the first rule is to separate independent clauses. So an independent clause is, think of it as a complete idea and it could stand on its own. Like it doesn't need any extra words. So think of like it could be a sentence that could stand completely on its own, but there's a comma after it. That's it. Okay, so let's look at two examples right here. So the first one, Mikhail walked down the street and then he turned the corner. So Mikhail walked down the street. Right? If we had this sentence, Mikhail walked down the street, we could put a period after it, right? Because it's a complete sentence. Mikhail walked down the street. Where did he walk? He walked down the street. Who walked? Mikhail. So we have a subject, we have a predicate verb, and then we have the whole thing. So we have a subject, then we have a predicate verb, and we have the predicate, right? So that's a complete sentence, but we have a comma after it. Then he turned the corner, right? Then he turned the corner. Then who turned the corner? He turned the corner. Subject, predicate verb, and then the rest of this is this is also considered your predicate, right? Just like walk down the street, that is also considered your predicate. Okay, so it's a complete, there's two complete sentences, but they're combined together with a conjunction, which is fanboys. All right, so like look up here, we have all these fanboys. We have for, we have and, nor, but, or, and yet. And so, right? Fanboys, F-A-N-B-O-Y-S. Fanboys. Just remember, fanboys. Okay. So now let's go into the definition over here. Use a comma before a coordinating conjunction, which we know as fanboys, when it joins two complete ideas or independent clauses. You could think of independent clauses like sentences that can stand on their own, but we decided to combine two of the sentences together and put a fanboy in the middle with a comma. So let's look at this. Mikhail walked down the street, comma, and so this one is our fanboy, right? Then he turned the corner. So you see how we put a comma here, and then we have a coordinating conjunction right after it, which is a fanboys. So that's how you can separate independent clauses. Let's look at the next example, number 2. You can go shopping with me. Yeah, that's a sentence. You can go shopping with me. Imagine saying that. You can go shopping with me. You can pretty much put a period at the end of it, right? So we have our subject, and then we have our predicate verb, and we have the whole predicate, right? Or you can go to a movie alone. So we have a subject, we have a predicate verb right here, and then the whole thing over here is the predicate, right? So you can go shopping with me, or you can go to a movie alone. So we have the comma, which we put here, because these are two independent clauses. Okay, these are two independent clauses, which means separate sentences, and then we combine them into one using the fanboys in the middle, or. So you guys got that? And before the or, we just put a comma. Okay? So that's how you can separate independent clauses or separate sentences or separate ideas, two complete ideas that can stand on their own, and use a comma to separate them, and then directly after it you have a fanboys word. Remember, fanboys are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Okay, so that's the first one. Now we're going to move on to the second one. Okay. After an introductory clause or phrase. Let's start with this. What do you guys think that means? What do you think an introductory clause or phrase is? So if we think of introductory, we think of introduction, right? Like an introduction to a movie or an introduction to a book or some type of introduction to a story or something like that, right? So an introduction is the beginning. Okay, that's the beginning. Now, an introduction in a sentence, like in a whole sentence, doesn't have to be complete. So let's look at number 1, right? When Prithvi was ready to iron, is that a complete sentence? No, right? It's incomplete. When Prithvi was ready to iron, well, what happened after that? Right? So when Prithvi was ready to iron, put comma, his cat tripped on the cord. So we have, this is our introductory clause, right? And then we have our comma afterwards. We have our comma afterwards. His cat tripped on the cord. So a comma tells readers that the introductory clause or phrase has come to a close and that the main part of the sentence is about to begin. So, his cat tripped on the cord. Is that a complete sentence? I mean, it doesn't have a capital letter or anything, but if it were to have a capital letter, would it be a complete sentence? Yes, it would be. Prithvi, your cat tripped on the cord. Just kidding. So, his cat tripped on the cord, right? That is a complete sentence. So we have an introductory clause right here, and then we have the sentence, or the main part of the sentence begins here, and we separate that with a comma. All right, let's look at number 2. All right. Near a small stream at the bottom of the canyon. Introduction, beginning. This is the beginning. This is the beginning. Near a small stream at the bottom of the canyon. Is that a complete sentence? No. Then we have a comma. Aryan and Trisha discovered a gold mine. Is that a complete sentence? Yes, it is a complete sentence. Okay, so you guys get that? So this is the next one. So to review, you have an introductory clause, you have a comma, and then you have the main part of the sentence, which is a complete thought or an independent clause. Then over here, we have near a small stream at the bottom of the canyon. Not a complete sentence. It's the introductory clause or phrase. And then we have Aryan and Trisha discovered a gold mine. That is a complete thought. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Now, this one is what you guys are all really used to in school, right? Between all items in a series. And this is the one that you guys get tripped up on a lot. In this one, I'm going to go over this, and I'm going to show you exactly how it works. Okay, I'm not going to introduce the Oxford comma with you guys or any of those things yet. As you continue going through school, you'll learn about it and you'll be able to do it. Let's make sure we master the basics first and then we get it into it. The Oxford's comma is like when you have a list of series and in the last one you don't put a comma or you do put a comma. Let's not go there. Let's just put the comma there, start with the basics, get strong in the basics, and then later on, once you guys are strong with the basics and the foundations, you guys can continue experimenting with style and stuff like that. But right now, let's focus on the basics. So, between all items in a series, all right? So, you use a comma to separate each item in a series. A series is a group of 3 or more items having the same function and form in a sentence. Right? So number 1, we bought apples, comma, peaches, comma, and bananas today. You see that before the and, we have a comma. We want to make sure you put that comma there. Okay? Don't put no comma, put a comma there. So in a series of words, you put that. So we went to the store and we bought jelly, comma, peanut butter, comma, and bread, comma. Series of words. Do you see that? Okay. Now, number 2. Thriti promised her mom that she would be a good girl, that she would not bite her brother, and you see, we have and we have a comma before it. Make sure you guys always put a comma before the and, okay? And that she would not climb onto the television. All right, so this is a series of clauses. So we have clause 1, clause 2, clause 3. Oh no, that's part of the same clause. Sorry. Okay, so, and then we have clause 3. But before clause 3, we have and then we have this comma, okay? So make sure you guys put the comma before the and. Before the and goes the comma. Remember that. All right, now we're going to go into a series of phrases. Number 3. Mr. Shiv looked through his backpack. 1, comma. Through his desk. 2, comma. And around the office for his lost grade book. So this is a series of phrases. This is number 3. And you see, again, before the and, there's a comma. Right? Always put a comma before the and. So in any of your series, whether it's a series of words, a series of clauses, or a series of phrases, the way that it's going to go like this. You're going to have 1, 2, and you could have more than 3, right? You don't have to have just 3. You can have 5, you can have 6. I wouldn't go over 5 unless you're stylistically writing something, but a lot of you aren't there yet. If you are there, go ahead, use more than 5, use more than 6. But right now, a lot of you are learning the foundations of writing, so it's really important for you guys to use like 3 to 5 in a series. Don't go over that. So we'll do, if you do go over that, just combine it into another sentence or write another sentence. So let's do 3. Yeah. So we'll do, here, let me redo this actually. So when we have a series, right, we're going to have the first one, second one, third one, we'll say, and the fourth one. Okay, so you're going to have your first one, second one, third one, and fourth one. Remember, the and always comes right after the comma. Okay, so make sure you guys do that. All right, so that is between all items in a series. Let's move on to the next one. You guys are all doing a really great job right now. Keep focusing, keep paying attention, make sure you guys are writing things down. If things ever get too fast for you, make sure you pause the video and rewind it. Trust me, I do this all the time when I'm doing my own learnings about things, and it's really helpful. Okay, so make sure you guys use this to your full advantage. All right. Now, let's set off non-restrictive clauses. So this one, I want, if you are in 5th grade and above, watch this video, watch this part. If you are not, if you're under 5th grade, just skip over this one and then you guys can go skip over. If you're under 5th grade, skip over, set off non-restrictive clauses and set off appositives. And then you can join us for indicate direct address if you're under 5th grade. If you're under 5th grade and you still want a challenge, definitely do your best to pay attention to this. I don't expect you to know how to do this for all you kids that are 3rd, 4th, and maybe 5th graders. But if you're in 5th grade and you're confident in your writing skills, I want you to definitely pay attention to this part, okay? So let's talk about setting off non-restrictive clauses. So I'm going to read this first and then we're going to break it down. Use commas to enclose clauses that are not essential to the meaning of the sentence. So not essential to the meaning of a sentence. What does that mean? Not essential means not important. Non-essential means like, imagine if the world is ending, right? The world is just like, there's like a giant meteor that comes in and it's like, it's like the dinosaurs all over again. But everyone's freaking out, everyone's going crazy, and you're like, I should go buy a Lamborghini right now. No, that's not essential, okay? Essential is food, water, shelter. So in this case, we have, you're using commas to enclose clauses that are not important to the meaning of the sentence. These non-essential clauses are called non-restrictive. So non-essential equals not important equals non-restrictive. When I was in school and I took this college class called it was called Structures and Origins of the English Language. It was kind of like biology, but for sentences. It was a crazy class. But the biggest thing that tripped me up was like non-restrictive. So just pay attention to it. So the way that I remember it is that non-essential and non-restrictive, they both start with non. So I put that in my head. So non-essential equals non-restrictive. Clauses which are essential are called restrictive. Both restrictive and non-restrictive clauses may begin with a relative pronoun. So we already covered fanboys. Now we're going to cover relative pronouns. So relative pronoun such as who, whom, whose, that, and which. All right, we're not going to go into the difference between who and whom right now. All right, that's for a different lesson. We're going to be going over relative pronouns and non-restrictive and restrictive clauses. So we know that both restrictive and non-restrictive clauses, so that means both non-essential, so not important clauses are non-restrictive. When something is restrictive, it means that the clauses are essential, so they're needed. It's like the food, water, shelter, all right? Restrictive stuff is food, water, shelter. Non-restrictive stuff is like you're going to buy a Lamborghini, okay? So with this one, both of them can start with who, whom, whose, that, and which. The best way to understand this stuff is just to memorize it. There's really no other way. I mean, there's no other better way, in my opinion. I like to just memorize it. It's easier for me to do it that way. But you guys do what works for you guys. So both restrictive and non-restrictive clauses may begin with a relative pronoun, such as who, whom, whose, that, and which. A relative pronoun refers to the noun or pronoun that precedes it. So that comes after it, right? Or so we have Mill and George. What's up, Milland? We have Mill and George, whose, right? And that's a relative pronoun. All right, so this is a non-restrictive sentence, and I'm going to show you. Ready? Mill and George, whose comics you like, will host a party next week. Okay? So this is non-restrictive because this isn't important. Okay? Whose comics you like, not important to the meaning of this sentence. So Mill and George, whose comics you like, will host a party next week. Alrighty. So the whose comics you like isn't important to the overall sentence. We can still have Mill and George will host a party next week. Right? Still the same thing. This adds some more detail about it, but it's not important to the sentence. Let's do number 2. Tanish, this is supposed to be who. Sorry, I had a typo. All right, Tanish, who spent the last 3 days fishing, is back on the job again. So we have the subject, right? And then the subject goes to the word who. It's right after it, precedes it. Spent the last 3 days fishing. So this part is not important, right? Tanish is back on the job again. So if we have Tanish, is back on the job again. Mill and George will host a party next week. You see how the sentence still goes without these, like, let me change up the color. See how the sentence continues but without this part? And we don't necessarily need it. It's non-restrictive. It's the Lamborghini of the sentence when the world is ending, okay? I hope all of you kids are really following along and listening with this stuff. This stuff is super important. Will definitely help you improve your writing skills, especially when it comes to commas. All right, now let's go into number 3. The woman who is standing by the fireplace is a well-known composer. So this is a restrictive. This is a restrictive clause. So let's break it down. The woman. So we have the subject of the sentence. The woman who is standing by the fireplace is a well-known composer. So this is needed. Is a well-known composer, right? We can't take that out because it gives more information on who the woman is and where she's standing. And it's also we can't take this out of the sentence. Look, if we take this out of the sentence, right? So let's break this down. The woman who is standing by the fireplace is a well-known composer, right? The sentence is saying this woman, she's a really, really well-known composer. She's a really, really well-known person that writes music. And she's standing over there by the fireplace, right? We have this. The woman who is standing by the fireplace is a well-known composer. If we take this out, and we just have the woman is a well-known composer. Which woman? There's a sea of women. I don't know which one you're talking about. Which one? I don't know. Oh, I know. The woman who is standing by the fireplace. You see how that's needed? That's like the shelter, water, food of the sentence. Okay. If you need to rewatch this one, go ahead and rewatch this one. Watch it a couple times. It'll definitely help you. Let's go into the next one. Now, to set off positives. Now, this one is also for, I would say, like 5th and 5th graders and above. But if you're in 3rd and 4th grade and you want a challenge, go for it. I really encourage you to be challenged by this stuff. It's really important to challenge yourself when things are easy. But if you're completely lost, you can do If you're completely lost, I would say stick to the fanboys, the independent clauses, after introductories, between all items in a series. Non-restrictive, I would say fourth, fifth, and above. Set off of positives, fourth, fifth, and above, okay? So to set off of positives, oh, and if you're like totally lost, rewatch this video right now. So in a positive is, I'll let you read this out loud first to yourself. So go ahead and read this out loud to yourself, and then we'll go over it together. Okay, let's go over this together. So in our previous one, we talked about non-restrictive and we talked about restrictive, right? So non-restrictive is non-essential. So think about the Lamborghini or the Ferrari or whatever you're going to buy. The restrictive is things that are like needed for the sentence. Now, non-restrictive appositives are set off with the commas, and restrictive appositives are not. What are appositives, Mr. Sonny? An appositive is a noun or a noun phrase that renames a nearby noun. So it gives it a different name. So, if I wanted to call a student Timmy, I would call a student Timmy, but that's not their name, right? It's a little bit different. Appositives offer non-essential information. So that goes with this, right? So non-restrictive is non-essential, and they're set off with commas. Set off means to put commas on either side of that phrase. So Econch, the wholesome poet, is famous for his monologues. We can take this out. Right? Econch is famous for his monologues, right? This wholesome poet gives more information about like what he's doing and everything, sure, but we can take this out and it's not needed in the sentence, and we still know that Econch is famous for his monologues. This is just added information. Okay, this is just added information, and it's set off with commas. All right, let's look at number 2. This one is not an appositive. So the poet Econch is famous for his monologues. So now we have this. The poet Econch is famous for his monologues. There's no appositive here. There's nothing that's set off with commas. There's nothing in here that we can take out. The poet Econch is famous for his monologues. What are we going to take out? We can't take anything out, right? So look at it. Like in this number 1, we can take this one out, and we still know that Econch is famous for his monologues. But in number 2, the poet Econch is famous for his monologues. There's nothing to take out. Right? I mean, we could take out the poet, but then it's the same thing as this sentence. It doesn't make a difference. But we're not going to take anything out of number 2. There's no commas. There's none of that stuff. Let's look at number 3. Ridday, the underdog writer, surprised everyone by winning the 2030 World Writers Award. This one isn't a positive. So you see these commas? So they're set off with commas. So we can pretty much take this out. Ridday surprised everyone by winning the 2030 World Writers Award. This bit is just added information. We could take this out and it wouldn't change the meaning of the sentence. See that? So that's the difference with this one. If you want to rewatch it, I would say rewind this one, watch this one again, set off non-restrictive clauses, and then watch set off appositives again. If you guys have questions about this, please comment below and I'll be sure to answer them. And then if any of our students are watching these, if you guys have questions about this, just send me a message or we could talk about it in class together, okay? All right. Let's go over this one. We're going to indicate direct address. So now this is for everybody. So everybody tune in on this part. So indicating direct address. When a speaker in a sentence names that a person to whom he is speaking, this addressing of the audience is called direct address. Direct address is indicated by the use of a comma or commas, depending on its placement within the sentence. So all this means, indicating direct address, means that you are speaking directly to somebody. That's all. Don't worry about these big words, okay? All it means is that you're speaking directly to somebody in your writing. So let's look at number one. I think, Thomas, you're right. So we set it off with who we're talking to. All right, let's look at number two. Thomas, I think you're right. All right, we have a comma, and then we go on to the rest of the sentence. 3. I think you're right, Thomas. So we have a comma, and then we have who we're talking to. So this is like if you're writing a story and you're telling one of your classmates something in your story, like, I think you're right, Mikhail, or I think you're right, Prithvi, like, I think you're right, Trisha, but you're putting that down. So I think, and you could have any word, I said, you know, whatever, I exclaimed. So I think, Thomas, you're right. Okay, this one's super simple, super easy. Let's go on to the next one. So we talked about this in our last one, is to set off direct quotations. So this one is direct address. This one is direct quotations. So I'll read this first. A dialogue is a conversation between two or more people. You guys know that, right? A dialogue is that. If the speaker, not the listener, in the conversation is identified, his name or the noun or pronoun is used to refer to the speaker, and the verb that refers to his speaking are enclosed within commas. All right. Now watch. We have number one. Sunday said, comma, I dislike concerts because the music is too loud. Right? And then he has the quotes that are after the commas, right? Number two, we have the quotes. I dislike concerts because the music is too loud. Period. Aditi said, right? Number three, I dislike concerts. This one is not an example of that, by the way. So over here, we have I dislike concerts, so quotes. Then we have a comma, quotes. Said Mr. Sunny, comma, quotes, quotes, because the music is too loud. All right, so the way that number three works is that we have a quotation. We have, and then whoever said it, it's the interruption. And then we have another comma. Then we have quotes. And we have what the person is saying again. Okay? So this one is direct quotations. I also have a direct quotations video and using dialogue. If you guys have more questions about this one, please go ahead and watch that video because that video will be very, very helpful for you and break that down further for you. Okay, now we have dates, addresses, titles, and numbers, right? Now, these are super simple and these are for all of you, okay? And I'm going to go over these really, really quickly with you guys. If you guys want to rewatch it, rewatch it. If you guys have questions and you'd like to ask them, wholesome students, you guys can ask them in class, and non-wholesome students or future wholesome students, you guys can comment below and I'll get back to you guys about that. So in dates, let's go over this one first. So in dates, the year is set off from the rest of the sentence with a pair of commas. So let's look at that. So on December 24th, comma, 2020, comma, Santa decided to sleep in. So the way that it goes is that we have month, day, comma, year, comma, or period. It could be or period. Say if you're like writing, if you're writing the date at the top of your paper, you know, you just leave it like that. But if you're writing the rest of the sentence, put a comma, and then the rest of the sentence, a period. Okay? So we set off, the year is set off from the rest of the sentence over here. with a pair of commas. So, rules for addresses. The elements of an address or place name are separated by commas. A zip code, however, is not followed by a comma. All right, let's look at this. Sonny Shaw was born in Hoboken, New Jersey in 1989. True story. So we have Hoboken, comma, New Jersey, comma, and then period. Okay? Please send the letter to Wholesome Learning at 1280 Highway 46, Suite 12, comma, Parsippany, comma, NJ. That's it. Should be a period here. Okay? That's it. That's the rule for the address. All right, let's go into the final part. Now, rules for titles. Now, a title in this situation means, like, you ever go to the doctor's office and you see MD? It says like MD next to their name. It's like, we'll say like Dinesh Patel, MD. All right, that stands for medical degree. So this is what I mean by titles, not titles of books, but titles of people's names. Okay, so if a title follows a name, you separate the title from the rest of the sentence with a pair of commas. So Viraj Sharma, comma, MD, comma, has been appointed to the board. All right, so we have, this is the title, and it's set off with commas. All right, so let's look at this one. This is the final one, and then we're all done. We're all wrapped up, and then you can rewatch this video, or anytime you need help with commas, or anytime you need help with your writing, you can always watch this video, and you'll know the 8 ways of using commas properly. So, rules for numbers. This one is super easy, okay? Super easy. Anybody can do it. In numbers that are more than 4 digits long, use commas to separate the numbers into groups of 3, starting from the right. So, in numbers 4 digits long, a comma is optional. Yeah, comma is optional. All right, let's look at this one. So 3,500 or 35. So we have, we're going to start from the right. We're going to go this way. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then we have 4. Right, the 4 is right here. We put a comma after the third one. Or you can write 3,500. I like to use the commas in there, but it's totally up to you. So let's look at this one. 100,000, right? So we have 1, 2, and then we go on to 3 here. Oh, no, sorry. 1, 2, 3, comma, and then we go on to the rest of the number. Okay, let's look at 8 million. 1, keep doing that. 1, 2, 3, comma, and then we go on to the rest of the number. Okay, over here there's a comma too. So it's after every 3. Now in 12, in this number, right? 12 billion. We have 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3, comma, and then there's no numbers here. Now, when you have a number, so if you have, we'll say, right, you don't put any commas here. There's no commas in the decimal points. All right, so that's it. So in this video, I've gone over dates, address, and titles, and numbers with commas, setting off direct quotations. If you guys need to watch the video about direct quotations, you can watch the quotes video on my channel. Indicate direct address, setting off appositives, setting off non-restrictive clauses, between all items in a series. This is what you guys really cover a lot of in school. After introductory clause or phrase, and then separating independent clauses. And we also went over fanboys. If you need to rewatch this video, rewatch this video. It'll definitely help you grow in your comma skills. Look, commas aren't like sprinkles. You can't just sprinkle them into your writing. You have to use them where they go. And in this video, you've just learned 8 basic uses on how to use commas. Right? Master this. Get this stuff down. Memorize how it works so that way you can use it successfully in your writing in school and grow. Okay, everybody, I'll see you guys next time. Good job today. Thank you for being with me, and I'll see you later.